Hey, welcome to this new episode of the live coding session with the B team. I think this is episode 19 now. And tonight we have a very special episode where we are going to do a small presentation of how to run a B node. This will happen on our internal AlphaNet. Can you tell me in the chat if you can hear me? All right. Yes. All right. Perfect. Yeah, so I think this will be a rather short episode today, not the usual 1 hour length episode, because this is just a presentation, small presentation, so maybe half an hour, we'll see. So yeah, the first thing to know about the B project is that you can find all of the code base on the IOTA Ledger B repository. You should go to the Chrysalis part 2 branch. That's where everything happens at the moment, and we'll start merging some stuff to the main branch when Chrysalis is live. Yeah, so today is not about explaining the technical details of implementation of B. It's just about how to use it and how to peer, that kind of stuff. All right. So first thing to know, we will in the future provide some already built versions of B. At the moment you have to compile it yourself. If you know Rust, if you have some experience with Rust, you know that this can be rather long compared to other languages to compile. So if you compile B from scratch, you can expect it to take quite some time. But this shouldn't be necessary at some point where we provide some already built versions. So I'm not going to build B right now, but if you wanted to do it, that's the command to do. I'm going to enlarge that. So cargo is the build system of the Rust ecosystem. So you would do cargo build -- release on the B node folder. So I'm not going to do that right now because it can be rather long, but I already have a build version here, so I'm going to execute this one instead. All right, so if you want some more information about how to run it, you can use the help option, and it would give you some information about the usage as expected. At the moment, we have some flags, we have some options, we have some subcommands. I'm going to quickly describe them. Obviously, the help command is the one I just typed. Pretty expected behavior here. The version 1 is just printing the version of B. So what you have here is obviously the logo, but also the version and the commit that is being used if you use a Git version of it. What do we have more? We have some options when running a B node. We have the -c option, which is to specify a configuration file. There is a default one, which is config.toml, but I will explain that in a bit. We have the -l command, which is to specify the log level of the node. So you have a bunch of options: trace, debug, info, warn, and error. And then we have some subcommands. This is something that you may recognize if you come from Hornet. We basically wanted to mimic that so that community members are not completely lost when switching from Hornet to B or from B to Hornet. So yeah. So how to use that? For example, you have some subcommands. So you have this one, and it would tell you how to use it. And with this one, you can For example, so this is the ed25519 command, and you can, for example, generate a set of keys, and it will generate a private key and a public key that you can use. With that, you can use the address command to generate an address from a public key, and it will generate the address. So this is a nice tool to have. Then we have, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. We have the snapshot info, which basically gives some information about a snapshot file. So this is pretty nice to debug. Basically outputs a bunch of information about your local snapshot file. So we can have the type of the snapshot, we have the timestamp, we have the network ID, I'll explain that in a bit. We have the solid entry point index, the ledger index, the number of solid entry points, the number of outputs, the number of milestone diffs. This is really for debug purpose. If you are just a node operator, this is not primordial information, and you can already forget about it. Something that is interesting for node operators is the peer-to-peer identity command. It will generate some information that you will need to run a node. So I see a question in the chat. This snapshot does not longer carry spent addresses. No, it doesn't. So there is no such thing as spent addresses anymore in Chrysalis Part 2, because the ed25519 addresses are reusable, so you don't need to have them in the snapshot anymore. So when I use this command, you have a bunch of interesting information. You have your P2P private key that you need to keep somewhere, obviously secret, so you don't share this one. You will need to place this one in your configuration file, so you need to keep this one. Then you have the public key, and then you have the peer ID. The peer ID is basically the one you give your peers so that they can connect to you. So if you haven't used, for example, Hornet in the Chrysalis Part 2 version, this may all be new for you. So I'll try to explain that as well. I see another question in the chat. Do I get a new P2P identity every time I execute the command? Yes, this is a new one every time. So yeah, this may be completely new for you in the Chrysalis Part 2 version of things. So yeah, the P2P peer ID is the one you give your peers in addition to your port and IP. All right. So that's it for the CLI. Maybe now we can finally run B. All right, so it looks like that. Maybe I can explain a bit what's about the logs. I can quit that because obviously I don't have peers at the moment, so nothing very interesting is happening. First thing first, it seems like we are joining a network that is called AlphaNet1. This is the identifier of our internal AlphaNet. The network ID is something new in Chrysalis Part 2, and it serves to identify the network uniquely. It basically allows you to, it prevents from sending a message from one network to another, because this would be checked, and the network ID is also present in the messages. So you can't take a message from a comnet or a testnet or whatever and push it on the mainnet. This would be discarded. Then it seems that my node just generated a local key pair, because you'll see that in the configuration I haven't put one. So if you don't provide a key pair, your node will generate one for you. Just reading in the chat, the network ID is part of every message. Yes, yes it is. All right, so the node tells you to add this key pair to your node and restart it. This is basically the equivalent of the commands we just did. So either you do the command or you run the node the first time, it would give you the key pair and you run the node again. Alright, so then some initialization, it gives you your PID that is computed from the key pair. Then we are loading a snapshot file with some information here. Then it's initialization some modules, a lot of workers, background workers are running, so you have a message requester, we have a milestone solidifier, yeah, we have some technical stuff that is not very interesting for the sake of this live. Then the most important logs are these. This is what would be continuously printed along the life of the node. We would have a status every 10 seconds that would give us information about the synchronization of the node. And then we would have the MPS plugin, which gives information about the message per second. And that would be incoming, new, null, invalid, or outgoing. But we'll see that when I actually have some peers. And then that's me quitting the node. So pretty straightforward, I guess. Nothing very fancy. If you come from Hornet, you may be able to find all the informations that you want here as well. We do have an API as well, REST API. So you can do commands like that. It would answer in JSON. If you want the full, where is this? All right. If you go to the protocol RFC repository, there is an RFC which describes the new Node API. It's obviously completely different compared to the one from Chrysalis Part 1. And you have a Swagger to have all the routes and parameters and responses of the new API. So you can start play with it. All right, back to it. So this is how it works. Pretty straightforward as well. You use curl to send some commands, it answers in JSON. Now, is there a public up-to-date specification of the message layout? Yes, it is. I think the one that we have, let me show it to you. If you go to the pull requests, it hasn't been merged yet because we are still trying to answer some unresolved questions, but this RFC 17 is the most up-to-date if you want some information about the layout of the message. This is definitely up-to-date. And you can see what I just talked about, the network ID. All right, maybe I can show the configuration. So the configuration is currently in the TOML format. The TOML format is the standard format in the Rust ecosystem, so that's why we chose this one. We know it's probably not the expected one from the node owner, so we are currently thinking, and maybe we would ask the community what they prefer, but there is a chance, obviously, that they prefer JSON format. But at the moment it's TOML, and it looks like that. Yeah, pretty straightforward as well. It's a lot of key values that you can change, obviously. I'm not going to describe all of them in detail, but here you have the network ID that you would like to join. So AlphaNet 1, Mainnet 1, that kind of stuff. Here you have some information about the logger. You can put as many outputs as you want. there is a default one that is tested out in info mode. Then you have some network related stuff, and probably the most important part of it will be the peers, the manual peers that you want to join. I'll explain that when we actually have some peers. One of the major difference regarding the coordinator in Chrysalis Part 2 is that we don't have one static address anymore, but we have many public keys. So these are the public keys of the coordinator in the AlphaNet at the moment. Yeah, and some snapshot related stuff, some ways to download a snapshot, and where is the database. Alright, so now this is B on my VPS. So I'm going to show you the configuration. Alright, so there was no way for me to not show you my local key pair, so I'm definitely going to change it right after the live, but I had no other way than showing it for the live. But yeah, you are not able to join the AlphaNet anyway, so not a big issue. Question from Dave. Yes, we are using RocksDB at the moment, but the database has been made very generic, so it's really easy to implement a new backend. A lot of work has been done by the team regarding that, so it's all very well abstracted. It's really nice to implement if you want to add a backend, but at the moment it's based on RocksDB. Yeah. Yes, so this is my private key pair, and then I have two peers. The config format seems to be not as easy to destroy as the JSON missing comma. Well, it is. You can add some stuff and it would break quite easily, but it's pretty easy to spot, and the message errors from the Rust lib are quite easy to help you debug it. Alright, so if this is the first time you see this kind of address, if this is the first time you use a node under Chrysalis Part 2, then this is all new to you. When peering to nodes, you used to just have to give your IP, your peer, or DNS and port, sorry. This is somehow quite different now. This is not the purpose of this live to go in details, but you can see some information that you recognize. There is definitely the DNS of your peer here, prefixed by DNS. Then we have the TCP port here, and then we have the peer ID. It's pretty self-explanatory. So you can see that /DNS, then the DNS, TCP, then the TCP port, P2P, then the peer ID. IPv4 and IPv4 and IPv6 supported yes. This is what we call a multi-address, and the same format you can use for different underlying format. So I could do something like that, /IPv4, then something like that, /TCP, /. And this is also a multi-addr that is valid. And on the same format, you can also do something like this. And then an IPv6 address. Yeah, I think that answered your question. So basically you can pack many different formats in the same global format, so that's pretty nice. Alright, so I have two peers now, and I think we are ready to run B and hopefully seeing it synchronize. All right. So what happened here is that we saw that for a moment, we had a lot of incoming messages, which means that we were synchronizing, and according to this log, we were pretty much synchronized. So the first one is the pruning index, the second one is the latest solid milestone index, and then we have the latest milestone. So when this was printed, we were only missing the last milestone. So yeah, maybe some nice information we can see. We have some network messages relating to connection with our peers. So this node is obviously connected to two nets at the moment, which are running on the AlphaNet. Yeah, and we see some milestones incoming. Yeah, so every now and then we have some milestones, and it ends up being synchronized. So yeah, nothing more to see here. That's pretty straightforward. The node is synchronizing fine. Maybe we can do some. What do I have here? All right. So if I check with the API, the latest milestone is equal to the solid milestone, which means that we are synchronized. Maybe what I can do is to copy paste a milestone ID and get some information about it. So the one message, and I guess I do something like that. Oops, nope. Oh, all right, that's with an S. Yeah, thanks, Sam. All right, and then I have some information about this specific message. What do we have here? We have the network ID, which is obviously equal to the one that match AlphaNet1. It's basically just a hash of the string AlphaNet1. Then we have the parents of this message, and then we have the payload. In Chrysalis part 2, you can have many different payloads, and one of them is the milestone, which has the type 1. So this is obviously a milestone because we copy pasted it from a milestone. So we have the index of the milestone, we have the timestamp, we have the inclusion Merkle proof, which helps node understanding if the milestone is according to their ledger state. It basically includes all of the messages that actually creates new outputs, so that mutates the ledger. So there is the inclusion Merkle proof in the milestone. The node also computes it itself, and then you compare both. And then we have signatures. We have two signatures because two public keys were used. And then finally we have the nonce. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Where are we at the moment? Obviously, as you can see, this is working pretty fine. This is working nicely. We are still working actively on some aspects of the node. So we still have a lot of work to do regarding the storage. At the moment, not everything is stored in database. For example, all the different payloads are not stored, indexes are not stored, that kind of stuff. So we still have a lot of work regarding that. We still have one or two network issues. But apart from that, the node is working fine. You could start trying it right now. It's on the repository I showed you. You just have to download it, you git clone it, you compile it, and then you are able to join a network. As I told in the introduction, at the moment the AlphaNet is internal to the foundation, so that we do some internal tests with no interferences, but we expect a public AlphaNet network in the coming weeks. I'm not sure exactly when, maybe next week, something like that, so very soon. And at this moment you would be able to join the AlphaNet, public AlphaNet. But if you are really impatient and if you really want to try something right now, you could join the X team. That is a team that is helping work on some projects. So we have a BX team, and for example, yesterday night I was working with 2 members of the X team, and they were successfully running some nodes already on our internal AlphaNet. So yeah, if you are interested in that, you can go to Discord and manifest your interest in joining them. We have Antonio in the chat that may be able to say something more, what channel to join exactly, because I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have much more to show because it's all pretty straightforward. The configuration is in TOML, but it's not that weird. I think we can understand it quite quickly. Maybe we would ask the X team what they think we should use, probably JSON, so maybe at some point we are switching to JSON, but yeah, apart from that, there is a CLI. You can use the B tools like peer-to-peer identity. You can run the node. Even if you can't join a network right now, you can start playing with the CLI, generating some stuff, running a node, even with no peers. Yeah, as I said, we are aware of some issues that we are actively working on. But if you are part of the X team and if you are working with the node and you see some issues, please report them. You can create issues. We can talk to us directly on our many channels. We have many B channels. I stopped counting. Maybe 15, 17, something like that. One for each module. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I would gladly take some questions if you have in the chat. So cannot put comments in JSON. Yeah, that's right, you can't, and you can with Tomo. Can we connect with the shown ORNet addresses? No, you can't, and we even have to create some demo DNS so that it doesn't leak any internal information. So you cannot connect with them, and we are going to destroy them right after the live. Yes, I am very happy with the progress so far as well. What time is it? All right, it's half an hour. That was expected. Yep. If you guys don't have more questions than that, I think that's pretty much all for me. So I will probably stay 1 or 2 minutes more to check if there are questions. Otherwise, you can just join us on Discord and we would discuss some more. Yes, I mean, public testnet is definitely coming soon. I don't want to give you a specific day because that's not what we do, but it's coming. It's coming soon. Yeah, what's next, Dave? Well, what's next is obviously the public testnet, where we can finally see a lot of ORNets and a lot of bees interact with each other. And yeah, we are really looking forward to finally see Chrysalis Part 2 coming live and see how it goes with a lot of messages, because at the moment we just have a tiny spammer on the AlphaNet, but yeah, it's been really helpful so far to find all of the initial mistakes and errors and just finalizing all the RFCs. So yeah. what are open questions that remain? Yes, obviously you can have a lot of information on the protocol RFC repository. If a PR hasn't been merged, it basically means that there are some open questions. And if you are interested, for example, if we go on the message one, you would always have an open question part in the RFCs, things that we are currently wondering about. And you can see that if this specific RFC hasn't been merged yet, it's because of one specific question about the maximum length of a message. So that's a tiny details, and when we answer that question, we would be able to merge that RFC. And as a matter of fact, I think we computed that maximum length. So we would be able to merge this one very soon. So yeah, if you want an overview of all of the unresolved questions, you can quickly skim through all of the RFCs and check at these unresolved questions. Will Chrysalis Part 2 be rolled out with Hornet and B at the same time? Yeah, I assume so. Yeah, probably. Obviously, Hornet is probably more mature at this point. The Hornet guys have been working on the Chrysalis Part 2 implementation for a long time. So I assume that when we go out at the same time, Hornet would be more mature and more stable than the B version. We would probably keep up quite quickly though. So I think in a matter of days after that, we would be able to keep up. But yeah, I think we would go live at the same time. I mean, everything is open source, so we are not hiding anything, and if you want to join the network, you just have to clone the repository. So it's just a matter of announcing it at the same time, but otherwise it's basically up to the community. All right, maybe some more questions. Nope. All right, then I think we will see you all in a new episode on next Monday. That will probably be Joshua. So yeah, thank you very much for joining. Thank you if you joined the X team. Thank you if you are helping. We've trained the nodes, and yeah, happy vacation. Yeah, I'm actually on holidays right now, so I will enjoy my holidays. Cool. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you on Monday. Bye bye.